It's time for video 4, all about my first 3 writing lessons of the school year. Let's get started. Just as a reminder, if you haven't already, download your free copy of the first week of school planning guide. It has pages that go with each video that will really help you with creating your lesson plans at the end. It also has all of the resources and freebies that I talk about throughout the videos all in one spot. So don't miss that. If you had the opportunity to watch one of my last 2 videos about planning your first 3 reading lessons or your first 3 math lessons, then you probably know how this is going to start out. The first question I ask myself when I'm sitting down to plan out my first content lessons is, what do I want to communicate about this subject area? What values do we hold in our classroom that we want to share with our students? Once you know what your expectations are for that subject area, then you can get started planning your lesson. So the first thing I want all of my students to know is that everyone is a writer. Now, this can be hard to get across because out of the 3 subjects I've been talking about, math, reading, and writing, this is the one where I'll have my most hesitant learners. There's a lot of people, adults even, that just don't enjoy writing. They don't see themselves as writers, and they don't find it fun to do. It's hard work. The way that we're going to become writers is writing every day. And it doesn't matter if it's a whole story, chapter book, a nonfiction book. That isn't the only writing that's possible. Students writing about math problems, writing about their weekend, writing a list, that's all writing too. No matter what kind of writing it is, it still makes you a writer. Another thing I want to communicate to my students is that writing is never over. Now, this is something that doesn't really make them very happy. They want to get it done. They want to sit down, write their story, and say, I'm done, and put it in the done bin. Well, guess what? During our writing, it doesn't stop. At the end of writing time, it does. But while we're immersed in that writing time, whatever you finish, you can go back and add to, change, correct, or start something new. So it's kind of this free-flowing, continuous process that doesn't have an exact endpoint. We just have the time dedicated to writing each day, and during that time, you're going to work on writing the whole time. The first message I want to get across on day 1 of our writing lessons is that we are authors, and we need to start thinking like authors. So what better way to do that than to take a look at some of the books that we've read already this week. So I have a handful of our back to school books there, and we really dissect each one and jot down some notes on the cover with a post-it about where their ideas might have come from. So for the What Should Danny Do book, for example, we wrote down that characters make choices, superheroes, choosing your own adventure. So those are kind of some of the combined elements of that book. This will help us with generating ideas and creating our own stories based on those ideas. Now, this first day of writing, I let it be all up to the students about what they want to write about. They can write about anything as long as it's school appropriate. So a lot of them have ideas already, but for the ones that don't, I encourage them to use ideas from the books that we've read so far. Another thing that I've implemented in the past is a topic notebook. So we just got those little baby notebooks there, and this is such an engagement strategy because your students will love getting out their topic notebook whenever they want to. You might have to set some parameters, but I make it known that ideas come to us all day long. It doesn't have to be at the beginning of our writing block. When you think about that as an adult, unless you're giving the student something to write about, if you're just telling them to think of something and you're giving them 5 minutes to brainstorm or 10 minutes even, that's not a very big chunk of time. So having that notebook to pull from when you need an idea is a really great strategy. I model by thinking aloud some ideas that I have, and I kind of let them have go off. You can make a list of topics. You can start writing about something. So it's very free write that first day of writing. Here's the next message I get across. You are never done writing. So saying I'm done during writing block is totally off limits. So prior to this day, I'm going to start with my bottom note there. You need to make sure that you have your writing area of some sort set up where your supplies are, your paper, things that students are going to need, because in order for them to keep writing, they're going to need to access more paper, be able to get that independently so that they don't have to stop you from what you're doing to ask where that is. So we totally ban saying I'm done during writing, and instead they can add more details to their writing. They can add to their picture. They can read their own writing, or they can start a new story. So I make this anchor chart. I put it up right by where the writing materials are, and then that's what I reference to. There's no more I'm done. You just point to the poster, and that's it. So after day 2, we don't ever say we're done with writing. My students have started writing. They started writing on day 1. On day 2, they learned what to do when they think they're done and how to add more to their story, picture, start a new story. Now we're going to start with some of those habits that we need to get into to make us stronger writers. And I start with 2 very simple habits, and this is not asking how to spell things and adding words to your writing. So I have that no H2O. If you've ever seen the movie, my gosh, what's that movie called? Can't fight the moon like me. Coyote Ugly. That's what it is. Coyote Ugly, they have a rule at their bar that no water. So I think of this as my no H2O rule, is that you also may never ask how to spell a word. They can ask each other. That's one of the options there, but there's no Mrs. Snow, how do I spell? Nope. We'll spray water in your face. No, I'm just kidding. I won't do that. But this is another one of those absolutely, you may not do this during writing time. You know, we have to really build those better habits because students have gotten into some kind of obstacles when they're writing. So we have to undo that by putting these into place. Now, if they absolutely need to, they want it checked, I have them underline the word. And then I let them know that when I'm reading and I see that underline, I know this was a word that was hard for them. And, you know, it's a judgment-free zone. They tried their best, but I'm not taking points off for not spelling things, which I don't think you should ever really do, is take points off of writing for not spelling things correctly. But that's a different story for a different day. So we don't want to waste time. That's kind of the point. I don't want them to be writing and on a roll and then get to a word they don't know how to spell, and then the world crumbles beneath them and their writing has stopped. So we're kind of getting into these no time wasting writing habits. And the next one is just adding a caret when you want to add a word in somewhere. So I really emphasize this when they're reading their writing back to themselves. That's when they typically you catch, oh, I forgot to write the. So instead of going through and erasing everything that you wrote or starting over, you just put that little V, that little caret, and then add the word in there. So those are the 2 big tips that I teach this day. And of course, I model both of them. I act super dramatic when I don't know how to spell a word and have them tell me what strategies to use. And then that kind of puts an end to it. Most years, once we go over this lesson and I display those posters right in the writing area, I don't really have that many problems with it in the future. So these are free. You can grab them below. And that is day 3 of writing. I forgot to mention though, we do each day as long as time allows, and especially on day 3, by day 3, they should have something written. We do incorporate some sharing time. All right, so our next video is going to wrap up our planning session together, and I've saved the best for last. I said the best was back to school books too, but I really think the getting to know you activities, that is what the meat and potatoes of the first week of school is. And I can't wait to share some really neat ideas with you for that. So, and join me for the next video for planning the most amazing first week ever.